Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and whatever else you want to call yourself. Tonight, things are going to be a little bit different. To put it bluntly, if news occurs, it's more by accident. We're here to talk sci-fi. And calm down, we're not specifically going for any particular brand of sci-fi, just generic sci-fi. All of this occurs because Doku done something that a lot of people don't think he can do. He read a book. Doku, would you like to detail this book for the lovely people?
Wait,
Tell us
what
what
are
tell
what
us
are
what crayons you used.
what are words and what are books? I like crowns.
Oh my god, you are a Marine. Now we know. Yeah.
But no, it is a book I've brought up a couple of times. I don't know if I've ever brought it up on stream. It's called The Three Body Project, and it brings up a lot of very. It has some concepts that I think are. Damn it! I can't think of a better word. Interesting, worth worth talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The first and foremost one being the name of the first book, The Three Body Project. So, how do you think? And I guess I'm asking Nomad and Jensen this one. What do you think it would be like living on a stellar body that is in a tri-solar system? It has three stars.
Oh, I'll go with me first. I'm going to say that it's probably going to be really unstable, basically. And I know you're going to say, well, no, because the planet will get its own stability. I think it would be quite unstable flowing through those three types of gravity. What do you say?
Oh, it'll definitely be unstable.
Okay,
All
good.
right. With a trinary system, first of all, you got to remember that the stars themselves are pulling on each other.
Yeah.
Okay. So at some point, their own and basically they've created orbits around each other in some way, in some manner. Okay. They don't just stay fixed in space. Now,
Mm-hmm.
is the question of is it possible that a planet is part of a trinary system? Now, what's a trinary system? Obviously, there's three stars that are interlocked within their own gravitational orbits, and they orbit around one another. And so,
Yes.
basically, what you're going to have is you're going to have, you know, the interchangeable orbits affecting the planets that are orbiting one main star. So basically, what it is you're going to have a star, two more stars are much further away, and a planet that's orbiting that generally orbiting that star that's affected by the other stars going into it. And as far as its stability goes, it'll be somewhat unstable. There's no doubt about that. All right. Now, how unstable will depend obviously on a number of factors: the density of the planet, the density of the stars, blah 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 blah. All right. The gravitational pull as it goes. Now, could you live for years and years and decades on such a system? Yeah, it's possible. It would be interesting in the sense that you would never really have night, all right, except for when you're on the far system of it, and even then, night is going to be very weak. Does that make sense? It's not going to be. It's not. It's because there's so much light in the area. Okay, you're going to have a lot of. You'll have a very melanin-rich population. Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, that's very true. All right, because you're going to be the amount of radiation, the amount of light that's hitting your system is going to be, extreme. Okay, but are you going to be able to live on that for millennia after millennia? No, because sooner or later, that instability is going to cause the planet to leave the Goldilocks zones of life. Okay, at some point, it has to happen, right? And in fact, when you look at it, even the system that we have today, all right, that's kind of happening. Um, we live it eventually. The planet Earth will become uninhabitable due to the fact that the orbits are going to be affected by the gravitational and the actual star itself. All right, so Now, is it going to happen tomorrow? No. Is it going to happen 10 years from now? No. Is it going to happen 10,000 years from now? Not at the moment that we can see. Okay, but it will happen. But in a trinary system, can planets exist? Yes, we know of planets around trinary systems. All right. Um, now, if a star gets too close to another star, all sorts of things can happen.
I believe, what is it? Alcentauri B is circling what we believe to be a trinary system.
Well, there's a lot of people that believe that our sun is part of a binary system with Alpha Centauri, right? So you're talking, that's the kind of light years that you're talking about between these stars. But if they become close enough, what ends up happening is the gravitational pull will literally suck the substance of one of the stars away.
Well, that's actually what this book does. That's very clever. Is in regards to the trinary system, they have what the author describes as being stable eras and chaotic eras, where a stable era is what you would expect it to be. It's just a normal rotation around the primary star system. But they will see two quote shooting stars, and that is indicative of what's going to start a chaotic era. And this results in usually one of two things, with the planet either being pulled far enough away from the primary star that everybody freezes to death, or one of the two secondary stars comes so close that everybody burns to death. And it's constantly going through this state of stable era, chaotic era, to stable era to chaotic. And in the book, again, this is very creative. It's science fiction, so don't read too much into it. But the species that evolved on this planet actually dehydrates itself and essentially hibernates until the chaotic era is done, and then comes back and rehydrates itself so that they can continue surviving. And they've done this like 100 and something times, 200 and something times, and each era lasts, roughly 100 to 1,000 years. So they've been around for a long time. But at the same, by that same token, while they've advanced technologically very rapidly, socially, their only goal is survival. So they haven't socially advanced on any real significant level. And to see them, in the book at least, with the way the prose is developed, how they view humanity versus how we would view them is actually very interesting juxtaposition, because the priorities are just completely fucking different.
Well, there are a number of factors that are going to be involved in that as well. All right, are you talking individuals? Are you talking, when you talk in social levels? All right, you're assuming that a lot more individuality between the other species. At least that's my understanding. Is that how the book puts them?
Well, when it comes to in the book, they're referred to as Trisolarans, and being an individual in this type of society is actually looked down upon. It's considered to be a threat to the survival of the species as a whole. So, where we might consider individuality to be something to be cherished, that's only because we live in what the Trisolarans would view as being a stable era. We don't have to worry about, a second sun passing so close it's going to toast us all like frickin' baguettes in a frickin' toaster oven. They don't view individuality in the same way as we do. They have a completely different set of moral standards altogether. We're incapable of understanding each other. And one of the book, towards the end of the first book at least, it's very easily described that Trisolarans view humans as being incompatible with them because of that sense of individuality that we so staunchly hold on to and strive towards, and also being relatively warlike by their standards, that they don't even believe they can coexist with us. So as far as they're concerned, it's easier to just wipe us out and just take the earth for their own.
But at the point that they do that, they would not. They would cease to be Trisolarans, wouldn't they?
Well, and that's the whole point. They're trying to flee Trisolaris because they know that there will come a point where their homeworld is going to be destroyed by the trinary star system in orbit. So they view Earth as kind of like a godsend. They view it as like Eden. So it's like, okay, we were basically going to die, so this is literally our one-shot chance of not being extinct as a species.
Sorry, I've got to put one point that you made. Hello. You said...
Here's my wave.
What?
That's my wave to you.
It's really him. You approved it, man. He is the globe.
See?
Yeah. You said they developed technologically, but they hadn't advanced at all socially.
Essentially, yes.
That's sort of bollocks. Sorry, but it is. Because technology changes the way you live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess you could actually make the argument they've regressed socially but advanced technologically.
Well,
But
it doesn't matter if they've regressed socially. They would have changed socially. And you said they didn't. They would have. Whether they went forward or backward or whatever, I don't care. They would have changed because technology changes the way you live. It changes the way, and if it changes the way you live, it changes the way you think. And if it changes the way you think, it changes the way you socialize. So they would have changed.
well, from the way I read it in the book and the way it's presented, I would argue that they've become socially stagnant because at least their civilization is afraid of dying to the point where they can't advance any further than they already have. So they're desperate to find a way to escape
That makes sense.
So I would say perhaps stagnation would be the better term.
Yeah, because if they haven't advanced socially, they'd basically still be Stone Age hunter-gatherers with ray guns, basically.
Well, and the one thing that does kick off in the book is when they do figure out that there is an Eden called Earth, and that kicks things off for their society where they go from doing absolutely nothing to building an entire interstellar fleet and probes and, I guess I should give spoiler warnings, but I guess we're already this far into it. That doesn't really matter.
That means that they do advance technologically then.
But there wasn't a motivation. There wasn't a motivation for them to advance technologically until they realized Earth was a thing and they could actually survive on this planet. So
hold on a minute. How did they discover Earth if they stopped advancing technologically and weren't building anything to do with space?
Because they already had listening posts set up to begin with thousands and thousands of years ago. And again, I'm spoiler warnings for the book.
It's either you're explaining it badly, which I don't think you probably are, because I know you to be somebody of intelligence.
Well, spoiler warnings for the book.
It sounds like a shite book, to be honest.
No, it's actually it's good, but it's overly complicated in the beginning.
It doesn't sound it.
No, the premise is actually pretty good, but it's one of those things you actually have to read. So basically what happened is we were sending radio waves out into space because, we're humans and we're dumb. But one Chinese...
Humans were dumb because we send radio waves out into space.
Well,
yes,
one Chinese figured out that you could use the sun as essentially a magnifier.
No.
Well, there is such a thing as gravimetric lensing. That's true, but that's not the same thing.
No, it isn't. It doesn't
you asked
magnify.
a question, Batman. I'll answer why I consider it dumb. We're sending this information out.
You're on about the you who were here bit.
Sorry, say again?
You're on about the you who were here bit.
Yes, because you can't guarantee the first one that comes along wants to work for our greater good. They may decide that we are a hyperspace bypass.
One thing is highly likely is by the time the radio waves get more than 2 light years away from the solar system, they've been so garbled by passing through dust clouds, other radio waves, and gamma rays, and other cosmic radiation, they'll be unintelligible anyway.
This is a good thing, in my opinion.
Plus the dispersal as well.
And that's why you would need a very high power transmitter to actually do it. And I'm not sure we actually have one that's powerful enough to do it.
Because it would have to be an incredibly focused beam, and you'd have to be deliberately aiming it to somewhere. And even then, it's ridiculously unlikely that the signal would be received.
Well, you do have things called masers, all right, which are basically lasers in the lower frequency band.
Yeah.
Okay, and obviously the focus on a maser can be very very tight. All right, just like you can make the focus of a laser very very tight.
Yeah.
So the expansion is not that, but the problem still remains exactly what Batman's saying. You're talking about distance, and over the distance of a light year, the expansion is massive. Okay, now if you, I was trying to explain this to
Make it
Jensen the other day.
simpler, MC. Uh, you take a modern torch, flashlight to you Americans, right? A halogen bulb one, right?
Hmm.
Uh, over a few feet, that's a tight focus beam, right?
Yeah.
The further out you go, the more diffuse that beam
insulates,
gets
yes.
until it's absolutely useless. Here's another one. The reflectors on the moon, laser beam from the Earth, right, and hit it.
Yeah.
It's only about 2% gets back because the rest is dispersed.
Yes. And so exactly, and so that's just getting out of the atmosphere, right?
Yep,
Let's
and back into the
even if
atmosphere.
you assume that you're starting in space where you don't have to compete with the atmosphere, you're dealing with how many light years of dust are in between, and there's lots
Yeah.
more dust out there than people realize. All right,
Yeah,
especially in the volumes, because it's hard to wrap your mind around just
but
how large the volumes are at
MC,
a
to
light
add to
year.
what you're already saying, from what we found out, because of the Voyager's probes, dust and radiation in the interstellar medium is actually heavier than it is in the solar system.
Now, gentlemen, I would just like to say something. TC, go and stand in a corner. That was terrible. Kem is curious about CERN, and his comment was, "Yeah, I've been very concerned." So he
TC,
should
you've
just go and
just lost
stand in
your
the corner.
TC, you've just lost your English card. You are now Welsh
Oof.
The
for
Ow.
the next 12 hours.
my concern my concern about CERN is that these people are they have a political agenda, not just a scientific one, and
Everybody,
that's a problem.
some of them do, some of them don't.
And actually, I do want to address something that Darkstar said in the chat. It's dumb to send signals out into space because anything that can respond will most likely be more advanced. If they can reach us, they will either enslave us or eat us.
Not necessary.
But
If we received a message from outer space, we could respond. Doesn't mean that they'd hear it, but we could respond.
well, and so the issue that's brought up with that though is what's known as the chain of suspicion. So whether they're more advanced or less advanced than us is not actually the real issue. The issue is that whether our society is more or less advanced, it doesn't really matter. We're looking at a society or a civilization that we really don't know anything about. So we don't necessarily know if they're malevolent, benevolent, or if they could change over a certain course of time. And if we're talking about a distance between planets on an interstellar scale, and time can change things very rapidly. And
There's another
so
thing. Well,
so
uh,
it's kind of where the whole concept of the second book comes from in the series. It's called The Dark Forest. It's better to just hunker down, not say anything, and not expose yourself, because even if it's just one civilization that notices you, if they deem you to possibly be a threat at some point in the distant future, it's easier just to pull the trigger and destroy you as opposed to let you continue to exist. So
well, there's also the fact the hypothesis that such civilizations will have already seeded likely looking systems with their probes that just sit there minding their own business, not doing anything until they detect signs of advanced technologies. Then they will descend on a planet and destroy it.
well, most likely, because again, if you even if you perceive something as a potential being a potential threat in the future, it might take a couple hundred years, it might take 1,000 years. But why run the risk if you're technologically advanced enough to do something about it right now? Why continue to let them to exist if you believe that they even might be a threat in the future? Very simply, because you might be able to mine that resource later. They could become a resource for you. The and an advanced civilization would look at it from that standpoint. And what's more is just because you can effectively do something doesn't mean that you can do it completely. For example, can you wipe out an anthill? Yeah. We have the technology to wipe out anthill. Could we wipe out all ants on the earth? Possibly, if we sit up there and got everybody together to actually declare war on ants, it might be possible for us to go on an extermination like that. But the amount of resources it would take for humanity just to wipe out every ant on the surface of the earth is
wipe us out.
It's quite, but it's quite impressive. It'd be on the magnitude of World War II, if not more.
That's not necessarily true, Dark Star. I mean, what if the advanced society that we encounter simply wants nothing to do with us because we're so primitive and just ignores us, brushes us off?
So this is the big question. The question that's brought up in the Dark Forest is how many civilizations actually exist within just the Milky Way galaxy alone? Because if the Fermi paradox is anything to go off of, there should be at least, let's be very generous and say, there's only 100. We're one of them. That means there's at least 99 more. Out of those 99, let's say half of them are as advanced as us. All it's going to take is one.
Guys, Doku, do your thing, and then let Batman speak.
Go ahead, Doku.
Okay, my point is all it's going to take is one civilization that's sufficiently advanced enough to just decide that I don't want to take the risk that humanity is hostile. I'm just going to wipe it out knowing that it exists and knowing where it is. The other 97 societies out there, doesn't matter. All it takes is that one, and that's the problem with the chain of suspicion. Some might decide to probe the area. They might look at the solar system and say, like, yeah, okay, fine, not really concerned.
Well,
but again, when you end up with that just one particular break in that chain, you're fucked. Because if you're not the most advanced civilization, you're the one who's basically crossing your fingers and hoping, I pray to God they don't decide to kill me.
Right, you finished now.
Are you done, Doku?
Yep, go for it.
Cool. Batman, all yours,
you
mate.
put too many pauses, like half-hour pauses, and we think you've finished and you haven't. First of all, hello, Carl. Second of all, there's another answer to the Fermi paradox. What if it's absolutely impossible to travel faster than the speed of light? That means that the advanced civilizations, they're not going to get out of their own solar systems. Any communications noise that they're going to put out is going to reach us, and it'll only seem like background radiation, cosmic radiation. Which basically means there could be civilizations right next door to us. We'd never know.
Well, cosmically, right next door.
Yeah.
I mean, true. I mean, it's not improbable to think about if we're looking
And it also brings another thing to light. You know that really shite science fiction film, Independence Day, where the aliens were basically cosmic gypsies. That's the only kind of aliens that would come visiting. The ones who live for generations on their ships.
Yeah,
faster than light.
Right, but they're not really gypsies. They're like a plague of locusts.
Well, they are in the film, but in reality, the more it'd just be like cosmic gypsies.
Well, did the gypsies go over and just try and denude an area and move on to the next one and kill everybody that was in it?
No.
Yeah, but that was in the film. I'm not actually on about the film. It was a bad example.
Well, I mean, but you say it's a bad example, but that kind of a civilization would make more sense than what they're showing from a lot of the other SF that's out there.
they probably wouldn't bother with inhabited systems because they could get everything they want in space without the bother of and expenditure of other resources to get it from an inhabited planet.
That's true.
Even organic stuff. There's all the raw materials in space. The organic matter in space to actually build any organic substance you need. From vegetation to meat.
What are pikeys?
Okay.
They're a subhuman form of humanity. They come from the southeast. We think they're related to Australopithecus gracile. Yeah, like Lucy.
Okay, quick version. Pikeys. They're the thing that make gypsies as bad as people think they are. It's actually the pikey doing it, not the gypsy.
Yeah.
The standard joke is this: what kind of key unlocks every lock? A pikey. Does that give you a clue what you're looking at with these creatures?
Yeah.
Notice I said creatures, not people.
The basically scousers with caravans.
Oof. They can't afford caravans. Scousers. No, he's actually right. That is actually a really good description of them.
Why do you ask this question?
Because Sean said we might be exterminated by bikies.
Yes.
So I was like,
right. Darkstar has a thing for you, Batman. The scientist Michio Kato theorized that kind of civilization would most likely civilization would succeed in space.
Yeah.
Nomadic species at certain planets to exploit. I agree.
I agree. But they really wouldn't. I don't think they would bother with inhabited planets because it would be, the cost would be more than the gain. I mean, what happens if they come across an inhabited planet that's on the face of it doesn't seem that technologically advanced, but turns out to have higher weapons technology than they've got ships?
That's possible. And Doku, what you were saying about that the Triple Sun people, I actually have a slight problem with it.
Is that the African tribe?
No, nice try. No,
no, I was being serious.
That's what's disturbing. The point of them being on this planet goes between the three suns. The tectonic plate should cause such problems. They would be unable to get technology together.
It's not the tectonic plates. It's the gravitational stresses of orbiting between three fucking stars.
Actually, that actually did happen to the planet in the book, and it resulted in part of the planet being ripped in half and created what they call the large sun, or the large moon.
It's not just that. The amount of solar radiation they'll be getting. Put it this way: Superman would love to live there.
Again, if you read the book, there's actually
there's
actually a good amount of thought given into how this planet would exist.
Life wouldn't evolve in a system like that. There is far too much radiation.
Theoretically, it could, but it would be a fucking hellscape.
Look, it really couldn't. You got too much radiation. Chemical interactions don't work. I'm forgetting the word. They're too unstable in high radiation. DNA couldn't form, for one thing.
I didn't say it would be likely.
Well, it would have to be a life that's based not on DNA but something else. That's true.
Even then, it's got to be based on biochemistry
of some sort. We do know that there's things that live in high radiation environments. In fact, in Chernobyl, we know of a fungus that exists off the energy of the radiation that's being utilized there.
That's the thing. Those things didn't exist until the radiation was there, though. They evolved.
We didn't discover it. We didn't discover it until then. That's for sure. Yeah.
That's fair.
No, a lot of this stuff that evolved, that can survive in high radiation and actually thrive in it. It didn't exist until the environment was there. Life will adapt, but under something like triple suns, It couldn't. There's too much radiation for life to start.
Depends how close the stars are when you talk about a solar ratio.
Well, there is that, but
It
generally,
also depends on. I agree with you overall, though, but
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of factors that are involved in all this. So if you take the premise that let's just assume that it happens, we're not going to argue too
Can
much
I
about how
pause
it
you?
happened. Sure.
We all should look at the chat and say hello, Tema.
Oh, yeah.
Hi,
Said
Emma.
Richard,
Hey,
Emma.
Emma.
All
Good
right.
to see you, hon.
Yeah. If you come back and say okay, it happened. Let's make the assumption that the star that it happened around was a wandering star and got captured within a binary system. All right,
Oh.
and it's on the outer edges of the binary system. Then you can see where something could bring its own planets, and this could all have already started. Life already existed, and now is adapting to the
Tema's proving me
situation
wrong,
as
by the way.
exists.
But even so, the life has had to have started away from the radiation hotspots and then adapted to them because the beginnings of life apparently is incredibly delicate.
As we know it at this time, yes, that's true.
Yeah. We can only go by what we know.
That's true.
Well, that's the thing. Just because it's highly unlikely doesn't mean it can't happen.
Oh,
And
Well, I mean,
And if it were to occur in these types of circumstances, I mean, I would actually like to see how this actually played out, because it's very rare. It would be not only very rare and highly unlikely, but the results that would come of it would be even more. I mean, in my opinion, ridiculous, just absurd to see the types of things that would occur under these types of circumstances. But that's kind of what I like about the book is.
There's another thing.
I mean, Batman, real quick.
Go ahead. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. So,
what would you do if you saw a species that was essentially humanoid like humans, except the way that we survive through what is considered the sun is coming too close or going too far away? We just dehydrate our bodies and just go into the dirt and then just pop back up like plants and then rehydrate ourselves like 100 years later.
Fungi.
And basically, yes. And it's just such an absurd premise, but under these extreme types of conditions, it wouldn't surprise me to see it happen. I mean, life is versatile.
Your high radiation aliens that have evolved under conditions which have, I'm assuming you mean conditions where the radiation is so high that it would kill us.
I mean, us, yes.
What's going to happen to them when they enter a low radiation area environment like Earth? I mean,
true.
I would imagine you would have to have some sort of like shielding or concealed environment.
What's going to happen to them?
Oh yeah, they would have to be shielded or have some sort of controlled environment before they would ever actually come out.
You don't get what I mean. What's going to happen to them? I mean, they've evolved to survive and thrive in an area of intense. Basically, they're comfortable in a nuclear reactor. Are they going to suffer when they come into when they end up in an area where there's relatively low radiation?
And that's where the issue with being what they call in the book the being very in a stable era versus a chaotic era. In a stable era, yeah, they'd be fine. It's basically the same as Earth is when it's orbiting around the sun normally. It's the chaotic era where they have to go into like the extremes. So I would imagine they would have to at least go through a couple of generations to stabilize themselves in terms of how their physiological how their bodies react to being in a constant stable era. But I don't think it would necessarily take that long, considering you're going through.
It's a radical alteration of their physiology. It would take longer than a couple of generations, mate.
Well, but even then, they're going through radical alterations all the time to go from radical A to B, and that's all you've ever known. To just have a stable A, though, shouldn't take necessarily that long.
Yeah, but they've evolved to do that.
Well, and again, they've still at least evolved in a stable era, so it should take, I would guess, I don't know. Let's be generous and say, I don't know, 10 generations to just get accustomed to just because they're already accustomed to the stable era, which would be
That's
our orbit around the sun. If they're
another
taking
thing.
the extreme part away, give it 10 generations, it would probably not be that far fetched to say they could adapt to this planet
That's
if all these things are considered.
that's another thing that I'm taking the issue with. You assume that the Earth has a stable orbit. It doesn't.
Well, compared to compared to
Oh yeah,
a
compared to that, yeah. But when the Earth gets into some of the really hairy parts of its orbit, which happen once every few million years or something like that. I don't know the time scale, but it happens. You get
Well,
mass extinctions.
I understand your point, but do you think even humans could survive that? Because
No.
I don't. Yeah,
That's why I don't think another intelligent species could either.
yeah. I think at that point in time, honestly, if they're coming from a trinary star system, they actually might have a better chance than we would.
Guys, from a Tema, being involved in a highly radioactive area would theoretically make the organism faster at adaptation.
Yeah, or it could also mean that life can't get any more complicated than, say, insects.
I mean, theoretically, yeah, but
It would have to sit up there and be able to utilize the radiation, and in the absence of the radiation, would be like starving them to death.
That's what I was thinking.
All right, so they would have to find some way to supplement the food source, which is in this case the radiation along with them when they're carrying it with them. And now, how do you do that?
The way they threaten us with war, and then we start nuking them, and they say thanks for the lunch.
and also Sean, three generations in terms of long form evolution is really not that much.
In terms of
300 years ain't shit.
In terms of what evolution?
Long form evolution in regards to generational evolution.
It is.
I mean, 300 years is about what you would expect to start seeing, genetic mutations to adapt to certain environmental changes. Like, I think that's a fairly low bar to set.
Genetic mutations to adapt to environmental. Yeah, we're seeing that relatively quickly on Earth, but those are really minor adaptations. We're talking about the death of all hippies memes.
But no, that's what I mean by I'm setting a pretty low bar. I don't think you could really say anything less than that is going to have any significant change on a large population. I think you're going to look at, maybe 8 generations before you start to see any significant change, but I think 10 to 12 is really what you're going to be looking at. Although I could be wrong. As I'm by no means an expert in this topic, but
I don't think any of us here are. Apart from Jensen, because he comes from another planet.
Thank you.
or Nomad, because he is another planet.
No, but there are. I can see an alien. Right, the whole term alien begins with something that's not like you. All right.
Yeah.
So, an alien not being able to establish a commonality with an alien race, all right, is something that's it'll be more likely than not for long periods of time until we find points of commonality.
I think points of commonality would be if it was an intelligent alien, you would have points of commonality like math for one. If math is going to be a constant throughout the universe.
Okay, now I'm going to join in. Why would it be? No, let me reword that because I can see where this could go. Hold up.
You could ask why it would be commonality throughout the universe.
Since math was the math that we understand was created by humans, yes.
Yes, but the principles will be this: 2 and 2 make 4 anywhere in the universe.
Theoretically.
No, they do. If you have
4.
Well, if you have two, oh, let's say you have two cubes of rock, right?
Yes.
And you get two more cubes of rock. You now have
Yes.
4 cubes of rock. That's
Or
going to be
perhaps you have one cube of rock that's larger than the others because you put them.
doesn't matter. They're cubes
Actually,
of rock.
I agree with you.
Or you can use hydrogen atoms.
Now science, I'm willing to actually
Math
consider.
is science. In fact, math is the underlying basis of all science.
Well, I don't know about that. The underlying basis is observation, but
Well, all physical science.
yeah. But as far as the proofs of it, you were correct, Batman. Math,
Yeah.
so something's not considered scientific unless you can put a predictable mathematical formula to it.
Yeah.
All right, and that's how Batman is describing math,
I'll
and he's
still
right.
find
He's
correct
right
it.
about that.
But, I
And he's-
mean, go ahead.
well, no, I was finished.
No, you were singing me praises. Go ahead.
Oh.
No,
Pet the Batman. Good Batman. Good Batman.
wolf, fucking wolf. No, mathematics will be the same wherever you go. The only difference is going to be the symbols used.
Yes.
You could go you could beat the symbols by just using simple lines and starting simply. The other commonality you would have to greater or less degrees food
Well, something
and
will be
shelter.
food. Something will be food. That's true.
Yeah, and shelter.
But
Pause, all of you. Pause. We
No
all want
hands.
to wish. We all want to wish Atema happy birthday for tomorrow.
Happy birthday to
Happy birthday.
you. Squash
Happy
tomatoes and stew.
Jeez.
Your husband's a monkey. I feel sorry for you.
Oh, Tema, happy birthday. Happy birthday to
No,
you.
saying this a tenor, I didn't see you live like a monkey. You look like a monkey. Because we all like a tenor.
Come on, Apes, you want to live forever?
I'm not singing nothing.
Go on.
Happy
Well, you
birthday,
could- hey,
Emma.
You,
Your birthday is one day after my father's. Today's my
you
father's
could you
birthday.
could always go back your heydays and
Congratulations
rap it.
to your father. Happy birthday to him. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. I wouldn't say that.
Don't say what.
No, I said I wanted to say that to Nomad.
It's okay.
Okay. Right, carry on explaining
being
why
stupid, I was being
aliens are not
stupid.
going to wipe out Earth.
Oh, we weren't talking about that. We were talking about commonality.
Yeah.
And I would like Batman to explain commonality as shelter.
Shelter from the environment. Every planet is going to have some form of weather, and yeah, extreme cold. Yeah, areas where or even seasons where there are extreme cold and extreme heat, which you're going to have to shelter from. Even an alien's going to have to shelter from it. So
Yeah.
shelter is a commonality.
Well, the fact that the shelter is needed, what you're sheltering from may not be common, though. May
No,
not be
but the
uncommon.
fact that you need to shelter from it is.
Possibly to a degree. Well,
I
and
mean,
obviously,
if it's those aliens from science, yeah, then raincoats and umbrellas would be a big commonality.
Oh, God, I forgot about that movie.
well, that thing amazes me that the aliens weren't running around encased in plastic to begin with, but that's a separate issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
It does seem like a strategic
a high
undersight.
proportion of our atmosphere, even in the driest, most arid places in the world, has got a shit ton of water in it.
Okay, what would the aliens do if it rained?
Die.
Die.
The question remains: why the hell would they want to come to Earth? Let's see.
You know-
We got Mars.
Right.
No rain. You got Venus. No rain. Let's go to the
Actually,
planets
no,
at
you're wrong.
75% water.
Apparently, Venus does have rain.
It's freaking liquid freaking lead.
No,
Okay, but
apparently it's sulfuric acid as well.
Oh,
okay.
that'll be good for you.
But
Well, it might
I
be for
think
the aliens.
somebody should make a parody of signs, right?
Mhm.
But this time, all of the aliens look like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Memes has an opinion on this. Space Invaders was great.
I mean, he's not
He's
wrong.
not wrong.
No,
Yeah, hey, there's another one to do with your dangerous aliens. What happens if these aliens? Well, it's got two ones for you, two premises for you. A, what happens if the only technological advancement they've got over us is they've got better engines? That's it. Or, and this one, Jensen might get the reference. What if they're the same? Yeah, they're the same alien species that was featured in a film called Morons from Outer Space.
The latter one, I don't have an answer for you. The former, it's definitely a lot more than engines.
No, I'm saying that could be their only advancement over us is they've got better engines.
Well, to answer your question, if that's the only thing they have going, then honestly, I think we'd actually probably win.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot more of us than there would be of them.
Well, and also we're a lot more warlike,
How do you know?
and because their whole thing is survival. Our whole thing is fuck you. I'm gonna kill you because I don't like you.
Hold on, their whole thing's survival, and we're a lot more warlike. But their whole thing's survival. So if we're a lot more warlike, they're going to become more warlike than us to
in
survive
time, yes. Actually, I agree
very,
with
quick,
that.
very
Well,
quickly
and-
if their whole thing is survival.
And now it becomes who's better at fighting
In
wars.
fact, if their whole thing is survival, yeah, they pop into our system, see this planet is inhabited by an intelligent technological species. Their first reaction is going to be wipe them all out.
And
Mhm.
again, now it becomes who's better at fighting a war.
Their whole thing is about survival. Their whole thing is about survival. That's not us. Our whole
Yeah,
thing is
but,
about survival.
but
They'd
survival and fighting a war is not the same thing.
They'd-
It
they'd
can
win.
become the same thing.
It
Yes.
can become the same thing, yes.
Okay.
But if you're showing up just because I want to be on this planet because this planet is not, the crappy one that's surviving or that's floating around 3-star systems versus, hi, I'm the
Hold on a
civilization that kills
That's another
each
thing I
other for
can't
shits
get.
and giggles.
They evolved on this planet, right? That you're on about.
Mhm.
They evolved there. That would be Eden to them.
Yes.
Earth would be a dung heap to them.
Yes.
They'd go looking for another planet like the one they left.
Yes. It's actually an automatic.
Yeah, it depends.
No, that's the environment which they've evolved in. That's the
And-
environment they're comfortable in.
And I should point out that if they've got the technology to travel between point A and point B, theoretically they're going to have weapons. And let's be completely honest, we ain't got a fool on this planet that's going to survive
Yeah,
exterminators. for want of a better
Another
term.
thing is, you said survival isn't the same as warfare. Tell that to ants.
Well, it's not the
Ants-
same.
ant-
I have
ants-
overlap, but it's not
no.
the same.
Ants are all about survival. That's all they exist for, is to survive. Yet, they're frighteningly good at warfare.
Yes, means
They've gone- they've
actually
gone-
that
no,
is
seriously.
correct.
They've gone to war with humans before. Admittedly, native villages in places like Southeast Asia, but they always win.
Hmm.
No, I understand the point you're making. I'm just saying they're not the same.
They can be.
They can be under the right circumstances and under the
If
right
they have to
conditions,
be,
but
they
they're
are.
not.
If
Yeah,
they
if they
are.
have to be. But that's the thing. If they have to be.
These aliens arrive here, their only concern is survival. We're in their way, then they have to be better than us at war.
Well, and that's the whole point. It's actually it leads to actually one of my favorite quotes from the second book. If I decide to destroy you, then what business is it of yours?
Yeah. Do you know what you proved with this entire conversation?
Go on.
Because obviously you really like these books, right? And I'm not going to take that away from you. But,
You can't take it away from him.
I know, but yeah, I'm not trying to destroy his fantasy because I wouldn't like it done to me. But
Well, to be fair, they are science fiction.
ultimately, no matter how well written the fictional narrative is, once it comes under scrutiny and the real world is applied to it, it will fall apart.
Well, yeah, it's science fiction. Nobody should look at it as science
Even,
fact.
even historical fiction.
Right, again, if you're looking at it as some sort of it's an interesting thought process to go through to see how like a certain civilization might view us, or how and what environment they might evolve in, and how they would look at certain things. But to view it as science fact, it would be naive to say the least. But that's not the reason. That's not the reason I like the books. The reason I like the books is because it's a completely different look at something that normally would be constrained by what I would argue to be a hyper rational way of looking at things. And let's be blunt, science fiction usually does precede science fact. There is a reason that we look at these types of things and consider things that, or we consider certain situations and circumstances outside of what the most logical outcome might be. Because let's be blunt, we're not that smart as far as things go. There's a lot of shit we don't understand. There's a lot of things we can't explain. So looking at things from a more creative standpoint usually does lead us in certain directions that we normally otherwise wouldn't consider. And that's where a lot of our technological advancements come from, which is why I like books like this. Now, I'm not saying that means this book is grounded in any real reality in any way, shape, or form. Quite the opposite, actually. I think it's very fantastical. The same way that Star Wars is fantastical. I'm not saying the Force exists, but it's a fun idea to consider.
Hold on. What do you mean the Force doesn't exist?
Oh no. Oh no.
Doku, whatever you do, don't tell him that Santa don't exist. He'll fall to feet. Oops.
Wait, Santa doesn't exist?
That's why I went oops. Oh dear. Well, it's about time people understood. Santa isn't real.
Wait.
Sorry.
Liar.
Are you telling me elves don't exist?
I never said that.
Of course elves don't exist. Of course elves don't exist. They're just pixies with pretty growth hormones.
Goddamn pixies.
They're pixies with their wings plucked as well.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh my god. Elves are your fault. You created the wretched things.
There's one thing that always makes me laugh. You get scientists going on about alien life, and they'll postulate an alien planet, right? With the same conditions as Earth. I say, Earth-like creatures could never evolve on that because it's not Earth. The conditions are the same as we've got here, right? That also means that the chemistry of that planet is the same as Earth. There's just as much chance of life evolving to be analogous to Earth as it is to evolving to be something completely alien. In fact, it's more likely to be analogous to Earth because the conditions are so similar.
Well, the condition is, but were the conditions similar at the time? 10 years ago, 100 years ago, a million years ago, everything.
That's what we're assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, real quick. TC, would you prefer a planet with 3 stars or 5 stars? Let me know. I'll fuel up the rocket for you real quick.
No, TC's not that rich. You just go for a 4-star planet.
What's that say about humans if we're technically in a 1-star planet? That actually explains humanity very, very well, disturbingly. Really does.
Well, like I said, there's people that claim that Alpha Centauri, which is our nearest star, is actually a binary, creates a binary system within our system. But
it's a trinary system, isn't it?
Or trinary. Well, depends on how far away you're assuming this. But I mean, all stars, all galaxies, revolve around one another to some degree. All right, it's just a matter of how close you are creates the space of orbit.
The nearest galaxy to us is the Andromeda Galaxy, and if you were to travel there even at light speed, the sun would be long dead by the time you got there.
Atema
In
has an
fact-
opinion. We're universal rednecks. You know what? That could lead on to something
Oh, it's worse
I
than that,
don't know
Gemma.
your world wants to deal with.
It's worse than that, Gemma. You've heard of white trash? We're cosmic trash.
Well, actually, we are technically, but no, TC, no, you can't. Stop it. He wants a planet with 9 3/4 stars. Mm-hmm.
The distance to
TC, no, the nearest galaxy to us is not the Milky Way because we're in the Milky Way.
Technically, that is the nearest.
No, it isn't.
If we're in it.
Then it's not near to us because we're in it. It's
We're
like
part
saying
of
the
it.
nearest car to me is the one that I'm in.
but the
Exactly.
the Andromeda galaxy is 2.57 million light years away.
Yeah,
All right.
and
So
closing at a rate faster than anything we have ever built.
So the Earth though, or our sun would not be dead by the time we got there if we were traveling at the speed of light.
No,
Our-
possibly not. I thought it was further away than that. My mistake.
yeah. But
and-
it definitely would have aged and shifted a lot more red. Well, I shouldn't say a lot more red.
It's getting whiter at the moment
Is it now?
because the sun is steadily increasing in heat, in energy output and luminosity.
Right, but as it creates helium, it'll begin a red shift, and you're increasing helium on
I think that's
as it
about
goes through.
4 to 5 billion years from now.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
but we're getting there.
but the increase in heat and luminosity and other radiations will have killed most life on Earth long before then.
Or at
Probably.
least adapted it to its new circumstance.
But you never know. If human technology keeps increasing, we might have become technology proficient enough by then to move the planets in the solar system around so we can keep Earth in the habitable zone as the habitable zone moves further outwards.
If we can get to the point where we can control energy to that degree, sure. But if at that point, are we even going to bother staying, or are we just going to leave for another planet?
Why? If we're at that very stage, we'll probably be able to stabilize our very primary star and build as many planets as we want.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Cough, cough, Dyson sphere. Cough, cough.
The Dyson spheres cannot work. I don't know. That whole theory behind a Dyson sphere is all sorts of full of flaws.
You're about the solid ball encasing a star, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
is a Dyson sphere. I know technically, if anything, you'd want a Dyson ring, not a sphere.
No, you're drawing a Dyson swarm.
The swarm could actually technically work with the right radiation shielding, but you would have to be able to have to be able to independently control it and make sure it can maintain the right distance from the sun. And
you get a swarm of planets around the primary star. Probably they're connected by a lattice. That could be a physical lattice or an energy lattice. I don't know, but that's another engineering idea.
We don't have the substance to be able to survive that. Let me put it that way, because from a physical stress. Now, an energy stress, maybe if it's a type of energy lattice, I think is probably a better way of looking at it. But a physical lattice, the material that would be necessary isn't even theoretical at this point.
no, it would melt.
There is a substance that we could use if we could actually somehow gain the technology to harvest it, neutronium.
Well, and also you could if done properly, you could use a lattice made out of carbon buckyball structures, but that would require a ton of energy to create just in the first place. I'm not sure it would.
It would require a ton of material to create. The hell with the energy you guys are talking about. Just think of the amount of material necessary, all right, in order to do something like that.
It's like a ring world. Apparently, to create a ring world, you know what a ring world is, right?
Of course.
Yep.
Apparently, to get the material to create a ring world, we'd have to harvest everything in the solar system.
Actually, if you want to make a ring world, you only need,
And then we'd
one
have to
thing.
go to another solar system, harvest that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think,
I-
but I don't think that even that would be enough.
To be fair, we're talking about creating a Dyson swarm around a fucking star, so...
Yeah.
You only need one thing. You need the skin of all the French people. Trust me, try it. I bet it works.
I am not living on a planet made out of shit.
You live on Earth, don't you?
It's not made of shit, it's made of rock.
Okay, it's layers and shit. Will that do?
Yeah, keep walking at it and it keeps raising an eyebrow at me.
Why do I have this feeling that Jensen is an alien who came from a planet, all right, that's harvesting Frenchmen?
Yeah, actually, you know what planet Jensen came from?
Mm-hmm.
Melmac.
Melbeck. we never realized that our entire existence is because Jensen had to do something to keep the Frenchmen alive so he could harvest them.
He lies about being a cannibal, you know, because if you want the truth, there are no cats in his neighborhood. Isn't that right, Gordon?
Jensen, I have a question.
You don't have a say in this, memes. You don't have a say in this.
Is the carapace...
No, memes, you don't have a say in this.
Is the carapace white and purple, or are we going with black and red?
Black and red, of course.
And hello, Bobby B.
Okay, that says everything I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me know what you find Tyrannus.
Well, unfortunately, gentlemen, I'm going to have to bounce, but I appreciate everything. I'll talk to you guys later.
Before you go, Nomad, if we did discuss what did make peaceful first contact with an alien species, right? And learned of other alien species through them, and it turned out that most of the alien civilizations in the galaxy were human. Would that be interesting to you, or a relief to you, or would it just make you feel incredibly bored?
It would probably make me feel incredibly bored, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, I gotta go. I'll talk to you
Bye,
later.
man. Bye-bye.
What's for Danya? Who was that masked man?
Right.
That was the cloned ranger.
Is there anything more you wish to bring up about your books, Doku? Because I think we've gone through the first part. We might as well do at least a minor conversation about what's been going on in the universe. That is why most of the people are here.
One moment. Hello, Maddie.
Yeah, no, I don't...
Maddie's here with her House of Greek.
Yeah, there's too many Greeks, that's the problem.
Ding, 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 ding.
But could you imagine how much ouzo that must be there?
Ding, 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 diddle, ding, 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 diddle, ding.
So what you're trying to say is, if you was a rich man, is this what you're telling me?
No, that's Fiddler on the Roof, and that's not Greeks.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling her Zoba after a while.
All right, then. Doku, I believe you wanted to talk about a certain Japanese fellow, didn't you?
Oh...
Not Hirohito again.
Yeah, he's invading. Last seen, he was heading a bunch of aircraft carriers towards Pearl Harbor. I don't think that'll upset the Americans. Oh,
again? Oh, hey, can you imagine that? When America's celebrating, it's Memorial Day. If the Japanese decide to celebrate theirs with a reenactment.
Well, that'd be a thing. Be interesting. Anyway,
because let's face it, the American forces see these Japanese heroes coming across. Think, it's obviously just a staged publicity stunt until they bombed the fleet in there. That station in Hawaii.
Yeah, that would not go well. No, what we're talking about with the Japanese is their previous Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, got his ass assassinated recently.
Did he?
Yes.
What about so his donkey was murdered?
Well, what can I say? It was a bit donkey on donkey crime. But no, seriously, all jokes aside, he got himself assassinated, which is actually a shame because He's actually a halfway decent dude. Well, at least that's how he came across.
Crap politician, then.
I don't know, actually.
Well, if
I'll
he's
be
halfway
completely honest.
decent,
Well, you got to remember
I'm
that
joking.
I know,
But, yeah.
Japanese also see things different to the way we do.
Yeah, they think we're insane. They didn't used to, but they do now.
Do you blame them?
No.
No, me neither. So, Doku, do you have anything you want to say about Shinzo?
I mean, what is there to say? He was.
Well, how about you describe the what the assassin used to terminate him? You're the one with the info, mate.
All right, well, okay, I'll go with that. The first thing I'll say is Shinzo Abe was very pro-Japanese. A lot of people who are American or European would consider him to be what is known as a nationalist. He's, again, very pro-Japanese, although technically by our standards would also be considered liberal. It's actually rather open-minded, rather accepting about people. He's just very pro-Japan.
That's not very pro-Japan for a Japanese person.
As far as, well, Japan's idea of liberal and our idea of liberal are two completely different things.
Yeah, their idea of liberal is our idea of extremely conservative.
And
Possibly,
and
yeah.
the one thing that I find very strange about this whole situation, and I'm calling bullshit on, is the guy who shot and killed Shinzo Abe said it wasn't politically motivated. He just didn't like the guy. It's like, well,
I'm calling bullshit on that as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna call bullshit because
if you just didn't like the guy who would, just written inflammatory tweets about him.
Just want to say one thing, okay, guys. How long is it going to be before I start blaming Trump for this? I'm saying right now,
4,
it's going to happen.
3, 2.
It wouldn't
I'm
shock
surprised
me,
they haven't
mate.
already.
Yeah.
Probably
And
has.
and Maddie, yes, it was a.
That's
it was a
why
homemade,
memes left early.
Oh, that explains a few things.
And Maddie, yes, it was a homemade shotgun, and for people that are not aware, yes, Japan has some of the most strict gun laws in the entire world, and yet somehow this dude still managed to get his hands on black powder, built a homemade double-barreled shotgun, and assassinated not just a political official, but one of the most popular political officials in Japanese history. Now, tell me again how gun control works, because doesn't seem to be working.
Don't probably got. Well, you want to say something first?
I just want to actually point out that Matt, yes, he has been isekai'd. Just it is what it is. This is how you get away from this shithole of planet.
Yeah, he's been reincarnated as a powerful wizard in a fantasy harem. Unfortunately for him, he's been reincarnated as a powerful female wizard in a fantasy harem.
Or worse, he's been reincarnated as a powerful male, and his harem all play Magic the Gathering and therefore are neckbeards.
Or worse. He's been reincarnated as a male in a fantasy harem, and he's one of the eunuchs.
Oh, that would be a bit of a thing,
yeah. Where the guy got the black powder from,
easy to make.
It's not that hard to find the recipe online. And you could probably make a shotgun with non-metallic parts these days. That would be workable for at least a few shots.
It's basically PVC pipe and duct tape. I'm not going to say how it was created. That would get us in trouble. But it's basically PVC pipe and duct tape.
Yeah. Pretty much how I'd do it.
Because I have seen a few people saying, it's 3D printed. No, it wasn't.
That's because modern people think in modern terms of modern technology.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to 3D print PVC pipe.
I'm waiting for somebody to say that the pyramids were 3D printed, to be perfectly honest.
Don't give them ideas. I'm actually surprised that he wasn't doing his thing, talking to people, and a ninja leapt out and formally challenged him. And they sat there doing Kamehameha at each other.
Ninja wouldn't formally challenge because...
I know. I'm going full manga here. Give me a break.
No, because you're about real Japan. Real Japan ninjas aren't like this separate sect. They're just, it's a job. Everybody, you could be a samurai, you could be a monk, you could be a fisherman, you could still be a ninja. And it doesn't mean you get this special training.
But I want special training. Yeah, I know.
It's not like the Shaolin monk, where you've got to take a pebble out of an old guy's hand before you can leave the bloody monastery.
Don't take the pebble from his hand. Just cut his hand off and walk off with the whole thing.
Yeah,
no,
child
Matt.
hand's going to beat the shit out of you.
Matt says common sense hardware store control. Matt,
Yes.
you might laugh at this, but I've actually heard people make that argument before, and not as a joke.
When you can take the stone from my hand, it will be time for you to leave. You've got it fucking super glued on, haven't you?
Like I said, Butterfinger, no hand. There you go, bitch.
No, that's the thing. I'm not joking. I've actually had people make the argument that nail guns should be regulated, and you need to have a background check for them. I've also seen people make the argument that kerosene needs to have a background check, because God forbid you have a fucking lighter and a cigar.
Jensen, I'm going to ask you, can you TC needs to be punished. First of all, what I want you to do is give him a wrench, right?
Okay.
Then take the wrench away. Then time him out.
Okay. Wow.
He's just trying to hit the nail on the head.
And then do the same with Doku.
Ah, dear. Well, TC has now been made a moderator, and because of your bad jokes, I shall remove your moderator hood. I'm not going to time him out. He has the right to speak.
Yes.
You're going to remove his hood.
I'd worry about how I was doing that if anyone. Yes.
But
yes.
What if he's not wearing a hood?
It's a hood of what part of his body that I'm removing, you want to wonder.
That's why I was trying to be family friendly.
So am I. I haven't sworn yet. So far, I've actually been very careful and not sworn at all.
Keyword, yeah.
Fair point.
I'll let you off.
Is there anything else you wish to say about yon Japanese dead dude?
Two things. First of all, may he rest in peace. And second of all, if there's an afterlife and he gets there, I hope he goes up to Kurt Cobain and beats the living shit out of him.
Kicks him in the balls. Yes. I'm actually okay with this as a concept. Well, in that case, do you have any other news you would like to bring up, Doku? If not, I think we will end it here.
There's only one thing I can bring up, but it's not worth spending a lot of time. Well, yes, that too. But it's not worth spending a lot of time on because I haven't seen a lot of information regarding it, but it does look like, thank God, finally, the SEC and the DOJ might be looking into market makers and hedge funds, basically extracting wealth from everybody else. So we'll see what happens on that front. If something does happen, I'll be shocked. I'll be happy.
Goku, I'll tell you because of telephone scammers, I always do those telephone market research pools.
I don't get me wrong. I'm not holding my breath that anything is going to happen.
And I always give a false name.
Wait till you find out which name he gave.
Today, 2 telephone calls for the same name. They were asking to speak to a Mr. Rittenhouse, a Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse.
I did say that he had to make sure that he just didn't say, okay, go on then, shoot. That might have gone badly. That's what I'm saying. Right then. Yes, that's
Yep.
right. I did that joke. You have nothing to say.
I approve. That's all I have to say is I approve.
Fair point. Oh, Batman, anything you would like to say to the wonderful people?
Yes, sod off.
Okay. Well, looks like we're bringing it to a nice end there. Thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen, whatever else you want to call yourself, for coming out and listening to us talk absolute bull crap. So, what the hey, it's fun. Who knows? We may do more like this. If not, we may go back to the standard political chat. In all honesty, you get what you get, people. Have fun or don't. Personal choice. Well, no matter what. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
go on.
Make sure you
Shut
make
off.
sure you see Kyle.
Bugger off. You're not got